Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Rewind and Replay. I'm Matan,
I'm Adrianna.
And I'm Caitlin.
and today we're going to be talking about video game adaptations. But first, Caitlin has an update for us from last week's VR episode.
Yeah, so after talking about Beat Saber, you guys convinced me to buy it.
Woo!
And yes, I have been playing it like nonstop. It is so much fun. And like for my motion sickness, it's not bad at all. I get like a little bit after a while of playing, but I can play for like hour and a half, 2 hours. And I'm like,
That's a while.
Yeah, that's solid.
it's been really fun. And like, I bought the Panic at the Disco expansion pack.
Hell yes.
So
Good
much
choice.
fun.
I
I love it.
Panic at the Disco. Yeah. Do you know what other packs they have?
I know there's an Imagine Dragons.
Of course, there is.
Green Day, and then
Green Day.
These are all very
and I'm jealous because those have more songs, and I should have bought one of those. But I also love Panic at the Disco.
Panic at the
like,
Disco is a great choice.
Yeah, they only have 4 songs though, which makes me sad.
Oh.
For how
But
much-
I'm enjoying.
How much did it cost?
I think it's $8.
For 4 songs?
Yeah,
Mm,
yeah, I know. I didn't realize it was only 4 songs until I bought
Yeah.
it.
sure.
I mean, but with how much you've been playing it, worth it, maybe?
Yeah, I think it was worth it. It's very fun.
It's a great game, and it's again
like,
great for
sorry.
quarantine for exercising.
Mhm.
Yeah, no, it has been really, like, I've been doing it a lot. Gotten real sweaty, cardio.
You know what I hate?
You're tempting me.
You know what I hate though? When you're wearing the goggles, when you sweat like on the band around your eyes where it presses in, that's fucking gross. That's ugh.
Oh yeah,
No,
it's
thank
the
you.
worst.
But you got to do what you got to do. All right. So as I mentioned today, we're talking about video game adaptations, mostly video game adaptations, and mostly for film and TV. There's a little bit of wiggle room in all of those categories. But our first film that we're going to talk about is Warcraft.
Yes, I lay claim to Warcraft because despite most reviews, I really enjoyed it. And when I first saw this movie, I hadn't played WoW. I still haven't played WoW. But it's been like 5 years since it came out.
Since the film came out. Yeah.
Since the film, yeah.
I was
It's
gonna
not
say.
the game.
Yeah.
Definitely not the
Been a
game.
bit longer.
But since the movie came out. And one of my best friends, he's been playing WoW for, 20 years. And so I've learned a lot about the lore, about all the patches, about the new updates. And so I had a little bit of a different lens when I was watching the film this time. I definitely noticed some questionable choices, but it still held up, which I think is really hard to do, especially after 5 years and like a jump in learning about the game. It was just, so the two narratives mostly are a plot with the orcs and a plot with the humans. Just ignore everything with the humans. It's not great.
It's Horde and Alliance,
focus
right?
on the orcs.
It's Horde and Alliance.
Yeah, but this is the first war. Like they didn't start anywhere into the games really at all, which is maybe like a bad decision. I've heard a lot of people say they would have preferred like a more popular storyline or quest. But from like a filmmaking perspective, I see why they chose the first war. It sets them up really well to keep doing like a series, although obviously I never got a sequel. But I just loved what they did with orcs. Orcs are like. They suffer terribly in fantasy. It's super racist. It's awful. But in WoW, and in the games and in the movie, you can't help but feel for them, Golden fucking sucks, but you see a lot of important orcs, and I loved it. I liked the CGI, and then I hated the CGI once a human entered the scene, so really just don't pay any attention to the humans. Just don't do it. But it was fun. Even if you know the game, like there are some chieftains that like you'll see but they don't talk about, but like you can recognize their faces, and so that's a really nice Easter egg for people who play the game.
That's cool.
Yeah, I don't know, it was fun. It's a good rewatch. It's not great, it's not good, but it's there. It's not the worst. It's a fun time. The combat is enjoyable.
You know what
the soundtrack pretty solid.
This is what I'll say about Warcraft. It seems to me like a great airplane movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? there are films that like Shazam was an awesome airplane movie. There are those movies
Still haven't seen it.
that
I
are
haven't
you
seen it
know,
either.
if you're on an airplane, pick it up.
I will watch it.
Um, so I know that, you know, there's World of Warcraft really popularized that world, but there were, I believe, 3 Warcraft games before that.
For the movie?
No, for there were 3 games, Warcraft games, Warcraft 1, 2, and 3.
Yes.
Because they just did
yes.
Warcraft 3.
So there's Vanilla Warcraft, which is like the first Warcraft, and then they have like a remake called Classic Warcraft that you can play, and then 3 like I don't know how you talk about them. I would say they're more like expansions, but like totally new updates to the game, which are like new games.
But I'm saying there are games that are not World of Warcraft, I believe, that are just Warcraft. I'm not super familiar with them, but I know because they just did, I think, Warcraft 3 Reforged, and it got totally panned. It came out like last year. But I was wondering if it followed any. Is it a totally original plot? I mean,
no.
I mean, I know it's based in lore, but I was wondering if maybe one of the games did this story.
Not that I know of. I mean, they made some changes, like they added a whole romance plot, and they made the king's wife like the sibling. It was they messed with some things, but it was like mostly true to lore. Like the wizard that like betrayed them, like that happened.
Interesting. I know this movie did really poorly critically and in the box office here in the US.
Super bad.
The numbers I have here is, well, the film had a $160 million budget. Opening weekend of the US, it made $24.3 million, which is pretty bad. But then this movie did gangbusters in China. It did so well. In China, it made $156 million in the opening weekend.
Hey, they recouped their budget, thank God.
Yes, they basically made their money back in just the opening weekend in just China.
Yeah.
So that's why I was always kind of surprised it didn't get a sequel. It still could, just because I know.
I hope it does.
It got they could improve.
I hope it does.
But yeah, I thought that was super interesting. There are those movies that are like big in China and not as big here, like Aquaman 2.
I loved Aquaman though, so I mean, you guys, maybe I just have bad taste. Is maybe what I'm learning. But I mean, especially going in, like seeing the world presented, because I've never played WoW. I really enjoyed like getting like a taste of what it's like.
If you're hearing meowing, that's my cat. She just walked up to me and meowed.
Which cat?
Cute.
Ray Ray?
Pig. She's a black and white cat. She's very cute. She just walked away though.
Oh, sad.
Yeah.
Sorry guys, maybe next time.
Adrianna, you'd made the point here that high fantasy is sort of hard
that was
to.
Me. I wrote that.
Kaylin.
Yeah, so I was gonna bring this up. I think it's an interesting like concept. High fantasy is like hard to get into for a lot of people. So I think a great way to get into it is by basing it off of like something that's already established. Like World of Warcraft is a world that's already been established, or Game of Thrones is book series that's already been established. And like The Witcher, it's already been established. But then I think a lot of movies, TV shows fall into like the side of like not representing it well, and then they like make the fans angry. And then it's like you have the fans who like are already part of that world, that like already love the world that you've made angry, and then the people who don't know the world yet, that maybe they like it now, but then it's just kind of like it creates a weird world. I don't know.
It's a tricky balance.
Yeah, it really is.
I was gonna get into this. I'll get into this in greater detail later, but I think that to me is a strength of in adaptations doing same world, new story. You can I mean, not to say that that's a winning formula. Like you can still totally fuck up a world in translation. But I think when you're doing a new story, when you're doing a story that's already been told in a game,
you better do it right.
Well, right. That's the thing is if you do it beat for beat, you know, it's like, it's fine. Like people like it well enough, but nobody loves it. But then if you change it, it's really risky, because then a lot of your base who would go see this film, who love the games, are not gonna like it. A lot of them aren't.
Yeah.
And so that's why I think things like well, things like Watchmen, not from a game, but from a comic, when they do a new story in this universe, I think that is to me, that is what appeals most about game adaptations.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the things that watching Warcraft the second time recently this weekend, I was like, oh man, they fucked those bits up.
Right.
And it's like an okay enough a movie that like you make your conceits. You're like, it's not great. I'm not expecting a lot out of this. So like when there's at parts, I'm just like, okay, I'm just gonna think about it. I'm just not gonna think about it.
Right.
But not everyone has that stomach, and they could have benefited from picking a different fucking story or making a new one. Or doing like a side story of a less important hero and not like the first goddamn war.
That's a good middle ground, I think, is like a related spin-off. You still have room for Easter eggs and references, but you get a little more creative freedom.
And I think it appeals to the like people who are fans of the original like video game or book or whatever, and like those people are going to enjoy it because they're already fans of the world. But then it can also appeal to new people who may not know about the world yet, but and like maybe skeptical about it. But then it like draws them in.
I think I agree with you. Go ahead, Adrianna.
So when we talk about like good adaptations, no offense, but especially for video games, I can't really think of any. Is the thing, right? I mostly tend to think of the bad ones more than anything because it's so easy to make a bad adaptation. Like
especially with video games, like they've just never really hit a good formula. I don't know.
There's so much lore and it's fantasy and it's hard.
And like I don't know. I mean, books do this too, where it takes you like way longer than 2 hours to read it. Like video games take way longer than 2 hours to play.
Yeah.
And then to try to condense that into like 2 hours, that's why I think they're onto something with shows, like TV shows.
I have two things to say about that. I totally agree with you. I think
my other cat is coming now and she's meowing. I'm so sorry. All the cats want to meow at me right now.
Another guest appearance.
Say hi.
I think that there's two things to say about that. I agree with you. I think in general, television is a better format for games. Just because it is an ongoing, oh, so cute. I'm sorry, listeners, you can't see Caitlin's adorable cat.
We'll make sure to post some photos sometimes because these cats are insanely cute.
So I think, again, not only just because of length, but I think sort of an episodic structure. I think because very rarely do you play a game in one sitting. I think that an episodic format is more similar.
True to form, yeah.
Right.
And it's also, I mean, in TV, we're in a very odd moment of format. Yeah, TV's doing fucking weird things. Like, if I'm not wrong, some of the Witcher episodes were longer than an hour.
Yeah.
So, who knows what's happening anymore?
The advent of streaming has really shaken the industry in terms of like season structure and even episode structure. Again, episode lengths can vary pretty dramatically within a show, and on top of that, shows don't really have to adhere to a standard season length. Like Unorthodox, great series on Netflix, check it out. Just 4 episodes, limited series. I don't think I've ever seen other limited series are like 3 or 6 or 8. This was 4. And it was cool.
Yeah.
But I was going to bring up the other point about I think why most video game adaptations kind of suck. I think this came up in maybe an old game theory video I watched years ago.
I love game theory.
When you're converting from games to film or TV, you are losing an element. You are losing the element of interaction. I think when you go from a book to a film, of course there is a lot lost, but you are gaining the aspect of visual and auditory information. So I think that's why a lot of people are kind of disgruntled with the adaptations that have been, just because
they can't hold up. And like you were saying, that's probably, but they're trying to tell the same story that's been told in the game, but in a movie you just can't do it because it won't be as good. It just won't.
Part of what makes video games so great is like the fact that you get to interact and you're part of the story. It's like some of those stories just don't translate when you don't have that aspect.
Right.
And one movie that I think, unfortunately, I still don't think of most of the time when people say video game adaptations, I don't know why, is Detective Pikachu. They did an entirely new story, and it worked out fantastic because it was still the world. I mean, I watched the show more than I've played the games. but both have been very important for Pokemon. And the world felt so amazing. It felt so amazing.
Detective Pikachu is awesome. Detective Pikachu is a fantastic movie.
It's fantastic. It's like put it in the comments, but I swear this is like the best video game adaptation. Like I can't think of anything else.
A lot of people agree with that.
Yeah. Okay.
I wouldn't say consensus, but a lot of people agree. And here's what I'll say. Detective Pikachu is not an airplane movie. I watched it on an airplane, and I wished I had seen it in the theater. I wanted to see it in the theater, but I was broke. This movie is so good. Like, I was really, really nervous about doing a realistic style Pokemon. I thought it was going to be super ugly. Yeah. And even the trailers. A lot of people were. The trailers were cool, and some of the Pokemon were cool. I wasn't like totally sold. Like Mr. Mime is kind of horrifying. Yeah. But that's good.
No, it's fantastic.
It works, especially how they use him in the movie.
Totally.
I mean, a lot of Pokemon would be fucking horrifying, especially when they get past the size of the Pikachu. Like when they stop being dog size. That's scary, man.
Like,
and when they look like a person, kind of, that's scary.
Yeah.
And this movie did that world fantastic.
You know what? Another thing is a lot of Pokemon, because they've only ever been sprites and anime, a lot of them, you don't really know what texture they are. They're like a solid color, and you're like, are they furry? Is that skin? What's... Yeah. But Detective Pikachu realized this world so well.
So well.
I met one of the guys, I believe his name is Ray Palmer. Nope, I think that's the Atom from DC. I don't remember his name, but Yep. All right, I need to take my meds.
I was like, wait, that sounds really familiar.
Maybe. He did a lot of realistic Pokemon art, and then he got hired on the Twitter, I think on his own, and he got hired by Detective Pikachu to work on it. He wasn't like the only person, but he was one of them working on those. And I actually met him only briefly at Anime Expo last year or 2 years ago. And my girlfriend and her roommate bought some of his books that have some really cool drawings. Cool. Pokemon is so weird because like
it's flat.
It's flat, and when it's not flat, like it used to be flat. Mm-hmm. But this is 3 dimensions. This felt realized in 3 dimensions, and it looked so good.
It looks so good. They really did an amazing job with CGI. I just like
and the design and the CGI were great.
That is really hard.
What I loved is this world. This is a city. This is not a story based on any Pokemon game. In this city, Pokemon are just intermingled with people. They just walk around. I think you can't catch Pokemon in this world, or you have just a partner. I forget the details, but I loved seeing Pokemon in the world. I loved seeing a Machamp directing traffic. I loved seeing Apoms swinging around signs. I loved that. Felt genuine. It felt like they thought about this place, because like a lot of the Pokemon games, I grew up in Pokemon. I love the Pokemon IP, but it often doesn't feel totally like a world. Right? They say Pikachu is the electric mouse Pokemon. Well, how do they know what a mouse is? They don't have animals. They just have Pokemon. And then it's like, maybe they do have animal, or what Pokemon do they eat? Like, we know they eat Magikarp. What else?
Magikarp.
This felt like a world. This world didn't share most of those answers, but it felt like a world that had those answers.
Yeah, it was believable.
I totally agree.
Have you seen it? You saw it on a plane too, Caitlin?
I did.
Psychos.
Yeah. Well, okay. I was on the camp of it looked a little weird, and totally. I wasn't sure how it was going to be, and I was kind of nervous, so I didn't see it in the theaters. And then I always wanted to watch it, and it wasn't on streaming for the longest time.
Yeah.
And so I was on a plane one time, and they had it free on the plane. And then I started watching it, but the flight was only an hour long, so I didn't finish the whole thing.
You didn't finish it?
Through. Yeah.
You still haven't finished it?
No, I finished it now.
Okay.
I got halfway through, and then I just never had the chance. I have now, but I never had the chance to finish it because it wasn't on streaming for the longest time. Mm-hmm. And then they finally put it on HBO Go, which I have. And it was just that awkward in between of I've seen half of it, so I don't really want to rewatch the first half, but it's also been long enough that I kind of need to rewatch the first half. And then finally, like, over the weekend, I was finally just like, I'm going to do it. And then I still got interrupted midway through.
Oh,
I had to stop midway through. But I finished it finally.
Thank you. So then we can talk about it, full spoilers here. They take some, the plot is not exceptional. It's not bad. It's not.
No, it's not anything super creative. I mean, you can probably guess it.
Right. And
they give you good hints.
And they take some liberties with the Pokemon sort of universe. Like, the weird thing about the guy, like, getting Mewtwo to, and like switching bodies with all the Pokemon. I think they've done that in the show before, but this was like the crux of it, was like people were switching bodies with their Pokemon, and the main bad guy wanted to get in Mewtwo's bod. And
yeah, because Mewtwo rocks.
Right. Mewtwo loved their design on Mewtwo, by the way.
Yeah.
Thought it was weird, but really cool. I just didn't. It was weird, but it worked for me. Like, I was in on that film.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, me too. I liked it. I think that because it's not, like you said, it's not something that we've super played with in the Pokemon games and in the TV show. So it felt refreshing and interesting.
I think
it worked because it was a new story in a world that we loved.
Totally. Justice Smith did a great job. Ryan Reynolds did a great job.
Yeah.
It was fun.
Ryan Reynolds.
I love Ryan Reynolds.
Me too.
Deadpool for the ages.
Yeah, he's great. He was great as Detective Pikachu.
My favorite Ryan Reynolds movie?
Please.
Do you want to guess?
Don't say it.
Oh, Caitlin knows.
Not the proposal.
Proposal.
Okay. I was thinking Green Lantern.
Okay, thank God it's not Green Lantern.
No, it's definitely not Green Lantern.
The proposal,
I love
really?
the proposal. Yeah. The proposal, amazing.
Does it hold up? I haven't seen it since the early 2000s.
I just watched it in quarantine.
Yeah, I haven't seen it in a long time.
I just watched it.
All I remember isn't there like a part where like a goose like comes and like picks up the dog and like
a bird, a hawk.
A bird, yeah.
A hawk.
Oh my God.
Oh, it's a hawk.
Yeah, it's a tiny white fluffy dog gets scooped up and she's like chasing it. She throws the phone at the hawk. It's great. It's a fantastic movie.
All right, maybe I'll have to revisit it.
I need to rewatch that. I love that movie. It's so funny.
It's hilarious.
Before we move on, I did want to bring up it. There is a Detective Pikachu video game that was released. I know it was released in the U.S. after the film. I think it was also after the film in Japan. So it's not. But I think it's really. I think it is very, very, very loosely related to the film. I don't think that it's the same story at all. I'm not totally positive, but I'm like 90% sure.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't see the appeal of it, I guess.
Yeah, it looked fun, but it didn't look. Yeah, I'm not gonna spend money on it. I'd try it if there was a demo or something. But, all right. Next up, we've got The Witcher.
One of the most hyped adaptations. Yeah, for a video game and for books.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Although most people have most likely played the games. I've played maybe 12 hours of The Witcher 3.
Mm-hmm.
That kind of game is unfortunately not my type. I can't.
That's what
Can you guys hear my cat meowing? I
cannot hear you. We can't. I can't hear your cat.
Okay.
Let her in. Let her meow on us.
I have to go to the bathroom, so I'm just going to go do that and let her in.
Okay.
So now we can do spoilers, I guess.
Yeah, you know what?
Caitlin hasn't seen all of it.
That's a great idea.
So we should take our chance.
Witcher spoilers right now.
Just right now.
I read, so real quick, I read most of the books. I think I haven't read like the last 2 or 3, including the short story book that this is based on. So the very first Witcher book is a book of short stories that this season is based on. Each episode is a different story. The show is not perfect, but I think it is so much fun.
It is fun.
Favorite episode is the dragon episode.
Yes. Yes. And that was also the most clear. This is an issue Caitlin will bring up. But like time-wise, it was the most clear episode.
I actually liked the time thing. It was a little
confusing.
I loved
it. I think
it kind of, I really like how it paid off.
Yeah. It paid off for me too. But I can see how it wouldn't for a lot of people.
Right. I like the ending. I like sort of Yennefer letting go, because Yennefer is like crazy powerful. I was really sad to see a lot of those wizards die. I know that is like a big event in the Witcher universe.
Yeah.
There's like the battle on the hill or Sodden Hill or something, and I like that we got to see it.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but Yennefer isn't Geralt's main love interest, is she?
She is. I would say
but there's
so.
another
Triss.
woman.
Triss.
Triss. That's
So
who I'm thinking of.
Triss is in. All right, we'll reel in some spoilers. Caitlin's listening to a few episodes.
Yeah.
Triss is the other main love interest. I mean, Geralt fucks. Like Geralt
Geralt
gets
fucks.
around. But the
Yeah,
main
who
two
wouldn't fuck a sterile hot man?
Yeah, Henry Cavill, like for sure.
But
Henry
even
Cavill.
Geralt in the games, the
Oh,
number
yeah.
of scenes with him in a bath.
I'm so
that's
sorry.
the game.
All my animals are like being insane right now.
So I also wanted to mention I own The Witcher 3 on PS4. I played also about 12 hours. I've tried it twice. I played it when it, not long after it came out, and I didn't really get into it. Waited a couple years, restarted it again, maybe in 2019. I just can't get into it.
I think my holdup is that it's just too big.
It's
too big of a world. I prefer not incredibly, but slightly more linear games.
Mm-hmm.
Although there's definitely a linear path to it. And I'm playing on fucking easy mode, so I don't know what my excuse is.
I guess I got kind of overwhelmed. Yes, sort of by the density of the world, but also of the mechanics. Of like, here are all the different salves, and here are all the different things.
The mechanics are worse on PC.
Really?
Yeah.
Yikes.
I mean, for me, a fun game, but like, I have not played it.
I'm not going to say it's a bad game. Already,
it's not.
Everybody, first I say I don't think Ocarina of Time holds up. Now I don't like Witcher 3. Like, our audience hates me. But
I got really into Gwent.
Gwent is
I love playing Gwent. I downloaded the phone game. I play Gwent.
Gwent is great.
Yeah.
And that game is really, like, I have a lot of respect for CD Projekt Red. One little Easter egg I recently learned about is, Ciri kind of goes, spoilers, Ciri kind of goes to different worlds. She like goes between universes, and she talks about a world that sounds like Cyberpunk's world.
Oh, yeah?
Very cool. So maybe that'll be it. I think maybe we will see Ciri in Cyberpunk 2077, just briefly.
That would be cool. That would be really, really cool.
But the show,
it's a good adaptation. I mean,
I
guess I say this without having played most of the games. So
I think it's a good adaptation of the books. It has weaknesses, particularly there are threads from within each of the short stories. There's like a little bit, they had to cut some of the depth, to make it an episode. And often the bit that they cut was kind of the thematic importance to Geralt. I'm trying to think of an exact example, but there was a bit, I don't exactly remember how it went, but in the very first episode, when he's kind of caught between that old wizard and that woman who was like experimented on when she was a kid or whatever.
Yeah.
They're sort of more, they go into kind of greater depth about Geralt is kind of like her. Like Geralt is also kind of a creation of like magic and science. And they go into that a little bit greater depth. I also like that episode kind of sets up his growth, where at first he's like lesser, at first he says like greater evil, lesser evil, there is no difference. And like, I think by the end of the first season, he like realizes that is not true.
I mean, even 12 hours into the game, you get called out on it.
Right.
Like, you're picking the whole time you're picking.
Right. I think the timeline thing would also be particularly confusing for people.
Caitlin, do you want to talk about, because you only watched a couple episodes, right?
Yeah, I watched I think the first 2 or 3, I don't remember.
Okay.
But yeah, I don't know, it was just very confusing, like all the timeline stuff. I really don't know what was going on, and then I ended up going on my phone like half the time. So
well, that'll hurt. That'll make it harder. I mean,
I know it will.
I get that. I get that. I think like having the background of the books and a little bit of the game helped me parse it out, and so I liked the presentation. But I understand how it could be kind of confusing.
I'm also like a massive high fantasy nerd, and that's probably from playing Dungeons and Dragons, but like high fantasy is my jam. So this is something I was very excited about. And I knew a lot about Geralt because he's, I mean, come on, I'm a woman and he's hot. Like the Geralt. After watching the show, I've read so much Dandelion fanfiction.
Dandelion, great. Interesting. They went with I believe that Jaskier is Polish.
Jaskier.
Is Polish for Dandelion.
Yeah.
Because the books are originally written in Polish.
Okay.
And great translations, though. The books are great, as I said. I really had a great time with it. I think Henry Cavill is great. I liked Yennefer and her actress a lot. I loved their intro of the character. I love that she, as a disabled person at the beginning, like has a sexual relationship with somebody and is seen as desirable. I think that's like a big,
Yeah, I did like that a lot.
important. I just like, I think the characters were dynamic. I think that they grew. I think that they all came from interesting backstories. I think Siri was kind of boring, but also she's a
She's
kid.
so young, yeah.
Right. But I'm excited to see where they go. I think they just started pre-production I think they just started production maybe on season 2.
And from what I've heard from season 2, they're not doing the timeline thing again.
Okay,
they're
probably
not jumping around with everything.
That was the biggest complaint that I heard, so I think that's probably. I liked it, but I think it's probably a right move not to do it.
Yeah, I loved it.
Confusing if you don't know what's going on.
Right.
I mean, I didn't know what was going on really either. But I knew him and Ciri had that's like The Witcher is him and Ciri. And I knew vaguely that Yennefer was his love interest. But yeah, I watched it a second time with my mom, who is not really a fantasy person. And I've watched the series 3 times now. And she definitely didn't even pick up that there was like a timeline thing happening at all until like episode 5 or 6.
Okay, interesting. By that time, did she kind of get it? By that time, was she like...
No, she's like, wait, didn't that happen in the past? I was like, oh gosh. Oh dear.
Yeah. But it's, overall...
I'm definitely the type that it like takes me a bit to get into something like high fantasy like that.
Mm-hmm.
It just, I don't know. It took me a while to get into like Game of Thrones, so I can see that's why like I haven't gotten into this yet. I don't know. I want to like it, but
yeah, sure. And if you don't, you don't. I get it. This is not the hill that I will die on.
No, yeah, me either.
Wink, wink, wink. Little reference
I mean,
there.
Like I was telling you guys before this, sometimes it takes a spoiler to get into it. We were having this conversation beforehand. Because like with Game of Thrones, I did not get into the show until I had the spoiler of the Red Wedding. That is what got me into Game of Thrones.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, like, do you want to tell her about Battle of Sodden, or I don't know if that will be interesting to you.
I don't think that's Red Wedding levels of hook.
I also don't know if I'm enough. When I heard about the Red Wedding, I was already on the beginning of season 3 of Game of Thrones, so I was like, I knew the characters enough.
Yeah, that's pretty far.
Oh, so you were then you were like convinced to keep going. That's what kept you going.
I had stopped watching for like 6
months. I see.
I was done with the show. I was not going to pick it back up, and then somebody told me about the Red Wedding, and I was like, oh shoot, that sounds interesting.
Well, I mean, you really like Sansa, right? Oh, okay, never mind.
I do now, but at the time she was not.
No, like now.
Oh yeah,
like end of series. Yeah, Yennefer is like Sansa level of amazing. She's fantastic.
Yeah. Yennefer,
she's worth watching the show.
I like Yennefer even more, actually. I really like Sansa at the end, but Yennefer.
Yeah, I didn't like her.
No, yeah, Sansa is a growing. Yeah. She grows. She grows.
Yeah, but yes, in summation, watch Witcher. If you don't like it after the first 3 episodes, you can stop. But I think.
Well, and come and tell us why you didn't like it.
Yeah, I'd like to know. Next up is not a video game adaptation, though there was a spin-off video game, but we won't talk about it. Watchmen on HBO. Watchmen 2019.
Yes, it was briefly on Hulu for a weekend, which is why I got the opportunity to watch it, because I was not going to pay to watch it on HBO. As much as I've been wanting to, again, like with most things, apparently, I haven't read the original. I haven't done the comic at all, but I know enough about like the lore and the theme. Caitlin, do you mind spoilers? Yes.
I do, because I have not watched this yet, and I really want to.
You haven't watched it at all?
I have not watched it. I have not
at all.
So I'm gonna say we're gonna do spoilers for first episode, because I think we need to explain some of the setup.
If you guys want to do, I can do spoilers for first episode, but if you guys want to do spoilers, I could leave and you guys can text me.
I think we can. No,
it's fine. We can work around it.
Setup and world.
Yeah.
So
maybe this will get me into it and make me watch it.
Right.
I am gonna watch it eventually, one way or another, but
good.
It's really good.
So I have read the comic, and it is one of my favorite books of all time. I love Watchmen. Yes, it is a little slow. Yes, it is a little pretentious, but I think it is an absolutely superb work of art. I think so Watchmen it just got this new show in 2019, and then it got a film from Zack Snyder in 2009. And so that film is pretty contentious. I've actually haven't seen the whole thing, but it is contentious. Some people really don't like it. Some people really like it. But from what I've seen, what I've heard, I believe that film is, even if you think it's a good film, it is not a good adaptation.
Mm.
So the Watchmen comic really, really makes great use of its medium, and I think that's why it stands out so much. Like, the Watchmen story is told in a comic book, and it kind of needs to be told in a comic book. Like, it even goes so far as, the character Dr. Manhattan. I'll give a little background. It's a superhero comic, but it not in a traditional sense. In this world, it's like a Cold War era U.S. Slightly alternate history, and basically there are superheroes, but none of them have superpowers. They're all just people in costumes, except for this one guy, Dr. Manhattan, who's basically God. His powers are basically unlimited. He can create clones of himself. He can totally reconfigure matter. He can teleport. He just has complete control.
He's God, and he shows up in the show.
He is significant in the show.
He's very significant.
But he turns the tide of the Vietnam War in this comic. Vietnam is the 51st state, and a lot is very. His existence sort of changed, is the big changing factor from our world to theirs. But this guy, Dr. Manhattan, he perceives time. He's like everything all at once. Like, he's kind of at every moment, all the time that he is present in, and that works really well because in a comic book, you often don't proceed linearly. Like, often you pick up what's on other pages. You glance to the bottom, and on top of that, you can turn back the pages to reread parts you're not sure about. And that's exactly how Dr. Manhattan perceives time. That's how he exists. And that is what I think, just one of many examples of the merging of form and function that Watchmen does so well.
I mean, it's what I love about literary present tense. I can...
Totally.
The dumb thing in essays where you have to write in present tense, I can flip to a page and it's happening again. That person that died, they're alive. And it's nice.
That's a really good way of putting it.
Literary present tense is important.
Yeah, I'm sure you could spend a whole podcast talking about it.
Oh yeah, that and the Oxford comma, don't get me going.
I'm an Oxford comma. I'm a big fan.
I'm a fan of the Oxford comma.
But so in this show is set in 2019, right? The show's set.
I believe so. Modern day.
Present time in this universe, and so a lot has changed. It's 30, 40 years later, and it's got largely a new cast of characters. The ending of the comic has changed the world. But what I love is that I was saying this earlier, I love when it's a new story in the same universe, and that's what this did. Some would even call it a sequel, and it is in some ways, but it very much...
It's a continuation of a story. Sure.
Yeah, it's its own, like, it feels like Watchmen, but also its own thing, which is, I think, the greatest success, the greatest a sequel can be.
It was unexpectedly topical. Like, racism. And this fit in really well for me after watching Hunters on Amazon Prime.
I saw that too.
They're very much the same not genre, but like the same tone, kind of. It's fucking good.
It's a lot about race relations, and in fact, the show actually starts with a really, really intense sequence during the Tulsa race massacre in Tulsa, Oklahoma in 1921, which is I didn't know about until people started talking about this show. It's this, like, basically what happened was this area in Tulsa was very increasingly affluent for Black people. They called it the Black Wall Street. It was actually where a lot of Black, families, like people, children of slaves were aggregating wealth. And then a group of white people, there was some event, like they thought a Black man whistled at a white woman or something, or some sort of small thing. And then this group of white people, and a lot of KKK members included, came and just destroyed this area of the city, lynching and killing dozens of Black people and basically setting them back decades. And the inclusion of it in the show actually prompted the Board of Education in Oklahoma to add the Tulsa race massacre to public school curriculum.
Was it really not?
It wasn't
in
the
the
curriculum.
state that it happened?
Yep. But
That
at least it is now, and I think that speaks to sort of the power of media. But
and the whole show was set in Tulsa, more or less.
Mhm.
There's some flashbacks in Vietnam and everything, but it's
Right.
mostly Tulsa.
Mostly in Tulsa, and the main character is a Black woman who was previously on the police force and is now a vigilante. And so now these vigilantes, well, now they're not really vigilantes because they do now work with the police. And the police now all wear masks because there was an event in which a lot of police were killed by a sort of racist hate group inspired.
KKK again.
The KKK, but the KKK also exists in this world. So the KKK, and then there's the other KKK that was inspired by the character Rorschach from the comic, which is great because he was a really fucked up character, really interesting character, but he was kind of like a super nationalist, like traditionalist asshole.
See, and knowing none of that from the comics, really. I mean, even now at the end, I understand enough about Dr. Manhattan to kind of track.
Right.
And like the show does a good job of like not explaining to you what happens in the comic, but using it in a way that's important.
Totally. The show is accessible for people who haven't read the comic. It's still great. My parents loved it. But I think when you have read the comic, it just adds a lot more to it.
I want a season 2, not with this cast. Completely new story. I want new story season 2. That's
I think David Lindelof, I think is his name. He wrote Lost. He wrote this show. And you can kind of see the parallels there because this show is wacky. This show does some crazy shit. Squids rain from the sky, like all sorts of crazy stuff.
That's great.
It was awesome. It was super weird in the best ways.
And I want a season 2, you guys.
Totally. But he dipped on the show. He was like, I am writing 1 season. I'm writing I'm writing 9 episodes, and then I'm out. And I like that HBO respected that.
It's still not impossible. I mean, once you have the season, you have a world to work with. I mean, they already had the world. They had the comics. But you have a visual world now, with the sound and the characters.
Great music. All sorts of, this show also does weird stuff with timelines. It can be a little confusing, but I think it really works. And on top of that, like it's just extraordinarily topical, especially now in the sort of the peak of this, well, hopefully not the peak, but hopefully it keeps going up. But this time of race relations being at sort of an all-time, I'm not being eloquent. Basically in this time of Black Lives Matter, clashing with police, I think it is really one of the most topical shows you could watch right now.
It's a good quarantine show.
It is, and it has a lot to say. Extraordinary characters. The new characters are fantastic.
Can I give you a hint, Caitlin, and anyone else who hasn't seen it? Just a small hint that I realized after.
Please.
Pay attention to the cover, the poster.
Oh, I don't know. I don't even know what you're talking about.
Oh, really?
Then is there a movie poster? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, yes. I say cover because I'm used to books. Yeah, the movie poster.
Very cool.
You know where she's standing in front of like the clock?
Yeah.
And it's just her.
It is honestly one of my favorite shows of all time. Definitely top 10. So I would highly recommend it to anybody who would watch it.
It's fantastic.
It's topical. It's weird. It's a follow-up to a fantastic thing without sort of spitting on its grave. It's really, really, really good.
Excellent. We should probably go back to games.
Yeah. So that was the big one that was not gaming. But the next one we were going to talk about is one of my favorites, Lara Croft Tomb Raider. This is not.
I've not seen it.
This is not the Tomb Raider that came out in 2016, 2017?
2017, maybe.
Yeah.
This was a 2001 film with Angelina Jolie.
I've never seen it.
It is. I think they even had a sequel or two. So much fun.
Really?
Ridiculous film. The action is like over the top. There's really my favorite one of my favorite scenes is she's on like aerial silks as she's fighting people, and so she's like twirling around and swinging all around this huge ballroom. She has the traditional Lara Croft thing, the braid, the top and the short shorts with the belt, and she dual wields pistols, the classic.
Yeah. I don't like that costume, man.
It is iconic.
Yeah.
Maybe not.
I just have a lot of issues with Tomb Raider, which
sure, but
I like the new one. I like the 2020 whatever 2016, 17, who cares? I like that one.
And we'll get there in just a second, but I wanted to the sort of main thing I wanted to bring up, the reason that I see this film come up and be talked about despite not being that great is it's kind of significant film history in that it's one of the last action films to come out before 9/11. This film was released June 11th, 2001. So I wish that I could speak on this a little more. You know, I'm still a film student. I'm still learning, but
we were wee ones when it happened.
We were, but its action sensibilities are kind of different. Like I'd say that 2000 is still 90s. I think early 2001 is still 90s. You know what I mean? Like culturally.
Yeah.
Like I think 9/11 kind of defined the rest of the 2000s and after
there was
that.
such a shift after.
Totally. And so this film still has sort of 90s sensibilities and earlier sensibilities about action. And I really enjoyed it.
Action movies, while not fantasy, are very important. And Tomb Raider, the newer one, also very much an action movie. I fucking love the stunts in it. I don't know what the plot was like in the 2001 one, but this plot was great. Her father, like she finds something in her father's study that like leads her on this great adventure. I mean, it's a little cliche, but it's enjoyable.
So it's directly based on the Tomb Raider reboot, just called Tomb Raider game, that was in, let me look it up. I played it and I played the sequel 2013. Wow, that long. Really great game. But this is a direct
and I believe there's gonna be a sequel, or at least they set it up for there to be a sequel.
There's been rumbling of it.
And I, with anything that is being produced relatively currently, I hope it's better than the first one, because it was okay, but it could be better.
That's what I heard. I wanted to see it. What I heard was that it was good. It was enjoyable.
It was nothing special, but for someone who has a lot of contentions with gaming, and especially Lara Croft, it was an enjoyable movie. I like
Alicia Vikander a lot. I kind of wanted Daisy Ridley for Lara, but I like Alicia Vikander still.
I like Daisy Ridley in Star Wars. I don't know if she would be a good Lara Croft.
We can talk about this off camera. But that's what I was talking about earlier, where I think when you do a direct adaptation of the story, often you kind of end up like pleasing no one. I think this was overall a success story. I think it did well at the box office, and people didn't really hate it.
I know, I haven't heard bad things, nor have I seen like terrible Metacritic reviews or anything like that on Tomatoes.
I think it's in like the 70s or something.
Yeah, just mild, middle of the water. Definitely not as bad as the movie that shall not be named.
That's Avatar for you guys. Red Left Airbender.
No, what are you talking about?
Oh, you know what? I'm sorry. I said 70s. Tomb Raider has a solid 51.
Oh.
And then audience, I think, is 55.
Wow. Nice. Lower than I thought.
Yeah.
I heard.
I mean,
go on. Go ahead. Up next, we wanted to talk about. Well, first, we know we left out plenty of other video game adaptations. These are just sort of the ones that we found interesting, one of us wanted, and we wanted to talk about. But next up, we wanted to talk about upcoming adaptations. So there are a couple that we wanted to talk about in depth, and there were a couple I was just going to read through. Let's start first with the Uncharted film. The Uncharted film has been in development for 11 years. It has gone through 7 directors.
Concern.
I have been watching it for a while. The current director, is the guy who did. Oh, who is it? Do you guys know?
I don't.
No, I don't. I have more hope for another Uncharted game. That's more interesting to me than the movie. I think
Tom Holland.
So yes,
Tom Holland is the only thing that has me interested at all.
So Tom Holland is playing Nathan Drake, and one thing, kind of I love this.
Weird, but yeah. Sorry,
he's playing a younger Drake, and I think that kind of works. But I love this anecdote. Mark Wahlberg was originally cast as Nathan Drake, and this film has been taken so long that now he's playing Sully.
Yikes.
Let me see. Apparently,
Caitlin, you love Uncharted. Is there anything you're worried about? Excited about? Tom Holland, for those of you who don't know, Tom Holland is Caitlin's future husband.
Yeah, love of my life. I love Spider-Man and I love Tom Holland. Amazing. Anyway, Dasher. Oh my gosh, I'm sorry, my cat just meowed.
We heard that one. This one, the director, I believe the director now is Ruben Fleischer, the man behind Zombieland and Venom. I've not seen Zombieland. People like Zombieland.
I enjoy Zombieland a lot.
I have seen Venom. Was not.
I have seen. I have trash taste in fucking movies.
That was another. Really, that was another one that did really well in China. You have a type.
I do have a type, you guys. I liked Venom.
I'm
excited. I think they're doing their own story, which again is great.
Yeah, That's what I was going to say before my cat rudely interrupted me. I was going to say, I'm excited because it's like what we were saying. It's in the same world, but it's a new story. It is the same characters, however. So that kind of scares me. Like if they ruin the characters, I don't know. Yeah, I'm a little nervous, but I think that because it's a new story, it gives me hope. I wonder, it's a younger Nathan, so I wonder if they're gonna have like Sam in it.
That would be cool. That would be a cool. You know what I bet they're gonna do? I'm calling it. If somebody take this down, I'm calling Sam is gonna come in right at the end, and he's gonna be the setup for the next film.
I think so. Because like it hasn't been. Because I'm trying to think in the games, like Uncharted 4, when Sam gets like captured and is in jail. That was like 10 years before, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like if we're doing younger Nathan, then Sam should be around, right?
For sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm tentatively excited. I'm gonna see it, even if I hear it's terrible. I'm gonna see it.
Yeah, of course.
No, I'm gonna see it no matter what.
We're all gonna see it.
I am excited, but I have my reservations.
I mean, after 11 years, it's either gonna be really fucking good or absolutely terrible.
Yeah, I'm gonna get sad.
Tom Holland is my selling point. As soon as I heard he was playing Nathan Drake, I'm sold.
I want to know who's gonna be. Oh, you know what? Elena's not gonna be in it. Never mind. I love Elena.
I thought I saw that she was. I'm not
really.
Yeah, I mean, I could be wrong, or I could have saw like something false.
You could have seen it 5 years ago. Maybe she was.
No, it was recent, but it could have been like a fan cast that like
wanted
her to play. Yeah.
Next up, we wanted to talk about the similar to Uncharted, The Last of Us HBO series.
I am so excited.
I'm excited for this.
So
too.
I actually am. I actually have high hopes for this, and that's probably going to be my downfall. HBO is doing it. HBO does great. I love HBO stuff.
HBO does fantastic television, so I'm excited.
And then they've got Craig Mazin, I believe I'm pronouncing that right, who directed and I think wrote the miniseries Chernobyl, which was absolutely fantastic, and is writing the upcoming Borderlands film with, and this is all with. I'm sorry. Last of Us, he's writing it in conjunction with Neil Druckmann, the director of the games.
So it's very unlikely that this is going to be like a bad adaptation, right? Like you have Neil Druckmann working on it. It's probably not going to be a bad adaptation. Whether it's going to be a good series is a different issue, but HBO is fantastic. So
they are.
It's probably going to be good. Fingers crossed. I'm so nervous.
Chernobyl was absolutely fantastic. Another great recommendation. I think there's only 4 or 5.
I still haven't seen it.
It's easy. It's short.
Good.
But it's intense.
But I don't have HBO.
I know.
So.
But I think this is an absolutely fantastic pick for director or writer. Craig Mazin, I think that he is also a fan of the games. He played the games.
I was going to say that.
And his work on Chernobyl is just fantastic. Like the sort of the sort of in dour kind of heavy atmosphere, the like ruins that are in that show. I think he just does the hopelessness sometimes. I think it is an absolutely phenomenal pick, and I'm glad that Neil Druckmann's in it, working with it. In terms of casting, Some people, a lot of people want Hugh Jackman. I don't think anymore.
I'm not sure. I could go either way. Depends. I don't know.
That sounds interesting. I
Sure.
like Hugh Jackman, so I
like him. I'm just not sold on him as Joel.
Yeah. A lot of people.
This is one of the things though where I wish it was same world, different story.
I was going to say the same thing. I really think The Last of Us has a lot of really fantastic world, and I think even though we have our differences in Last of Us 2, I think you would agree the world in Last of Us 2 is just phenomenal.
Oh, 100%.
There's so much.
There's so much.
Even in the same city, there's so much.
Totally. And you know what? Totally. And you know what? I actually just today saw they have done art of different landmarks around the world. This is official Naughty Dog stuff in Last of Us 25 years later.
Can you send that to me? I want to see
it.
I'll send it to you. I'll post it in our chat. I think it should be an awesome opportunity to see another corner of this world. Because, like, I don't just mean, like, the cordyceps fungus, though I do like that. Like, I like this vision of how humanity goes afterwards. Like, Walking Dead is pretty similar in the broad strokes, but the people and the world turn out pretty different. Mm-hmm. And so I'm really interested. I would have been really interested to see a new series with this, especially because, I think the conversion will be easier because it's such a cinematic game. But I also think for that reason, it's going to be really easy to compare to the game, and it might not stand up.
I totally.
I'm nervous. It's hard when you're doing the same thing. Like, even if this was a story about Tess or something,
that would be great. Like a spinoff. Yeah.
Or like Joel within like the 20 years, like that.
Yeah,
totally. With Tommy. Yeah. For my money, Joel, I want Nikolaj Coster-Waldau, who played Jamie,
oh my god,
who played Jamie in Game of Thrones. Yes. And I really did like Caitlin Dever, who was in Booksmart. She was the daughter in the epilogue of Uncharted 4. If she was younger, she would have been perfect for Ellie. She still might be able to do it. I'm not totally sure.
Yeah. No,
she looks older. She
does, but she looks a lot like Ellie. Like I've seen.
She does. Yeah. I agree for sure.
I was reading an article yesterday about like people. I think it was IGN, and they had like people they wanted, and like it was like I don't know. I did not like any of them.
Do you remember who they picked?
They had Ellen Page, which I get why they picked, but no, that's a terrible face.
Yeah.
They got in trouble for like being too close to Ellen Page.
They did, yeah. They changed her from a trailer to final release of the game. They had to mess with her model a little bit.
Yeah. And I'm like, that's terrible. Plus, Ellen Page is like a lot older now.
So much, yeah.
No,
yeah. I mean, that's probably why they picked her though, because she was OG.
Yeah.
Ellie face.
And then they said Millie Bobby Brown, which I don't.
I don't really like that either.
I'm not sold on it, but she's a good actress, so
I think they probably picked
Ellie.
They probably picked her just because she's of the appropriate age and is famous.
Yeah, that's basically what they were doing other than Ellen Page. Because they also said Sophia Lillis, and I don't see that at all.
Sophia Lillis? No. What?
It.
No.
And then,
I didn't see it.
What was the Netflix show she was just in?
It's like a sentence.
Why is it a sentence?
It's a sentence. It's a sentence.
Yeah, it's like I can't think. I'm gonna look it up real quick.
I am not okay with this.
Yes, that's it.
Yeah.
Oh, is she the main character?
Yeah.
Oh, I love that. I love that
not
series.
For Ellie, though.
No, not for Ellie, but I love her. And
I love her too. Not for Ellie. And then, and then they said Macy Williams.
No, that was an early fan cast. I don't really see it.
I don't see it either.
But I was fantastic.
Like the 4 people they said for Ellie, and I was like, those are 4 terrible choices.
Bad choices.
Yikes.
Good actors, bad choices.
Yeah.
I hope they pick like a new actor, like just a new talent.
That'd be great. I'm there for that too.
New, please, God. Unpopular opinion: Ashley Johnson. Let's just cast Ashley Johnson.
No.
That is not unpopular. That is very popular. Let's cast.
No.
Right now, let's do it. No, it'd be terrible.
That's a bad take.
It'd be terrible, but like it's Ashley, so.
All right. So next up, I just wanted to briefly mention the Lord of the Rings show.
No. Hard veto.
Why not?
I'm too nervous.
Yeah. Oh, on the show. Okay, I thought you meant on talking about it.
No. On the existence of the show.
No, Matan, we cannot talk about it. No,
it is banned. We cannot talk about
we
it.
do not talk about Lord of the Rings on this podcast.
I love the Lord of the Rings, which is why I don't want it. I don't want it to happen.
The big thing I wanted to mention, it's got the largest budget ever for a television series, currently sitting at $1 billion for a first season. And on top of that, I believe it's a prequel series. I'm not positive, but I believe it is. So at least it's a different story. But
like The Hobbit, or just like
no, before The Hobbit. I actually think this is one. I mean, this is one I could see doing the original story. I love those movies, but those are long,
dated.
dense books.
Yeah,
that I think could have worked.
And they're long, dense movies.
True.
They're very long, dense movies.
I just wanted to briefly bring that up.
I did not like The Hobbit, though. That was too
much. No. Yeah, the first
Hobbit I have trash taste, you guys. I love The Hobbit.
That's disgusting.
It was too much.
You were fucking disgusting.
The first movie was like, nothing happened in it.
The first movie
condensed all of it into like one movie.
They could have.
I will recognize, I really enjoyed the music in the Hobbit series. Which is maybe clouding my opinion of the movie. I also haven't given them a second rewatch.
Yeah, I have not watched the original Lord of the Rings in a long time.
I want to watch the extended editions. I haven't seen the director's cuts. I really want to.
Yeah, I might have. I don't know. It's been so long since.
I think I saw the director's cuts, but like when I was like 10.
Yeah, same.
So
I've seen the movies like maybe 3 times in my life.
Mm-hmm.
But it's long, you guys. It's such a slog.
And the director's editions are even longer.
Yeah.
Next up, I just wanted to go through a bunch of upcoming projects, and you guys can, I'm going to go through them all, and then if any of them stick out, we can talk about them.
Let's go.
Another Mortal Kombat film, Sleeping Dogs film, The Division film, Five Nights at Freddy's film, Sonic the Hedgehog 2, Tomb Raider 2, Fallout is getting a show, I think on Amazon Prime, Call of Duty film, Minecraft film, Watch Dogs film, Monster Hunter film, Metal Gear Solid film, and Firewatch film. There are others that are kind of in development hell, kind of in the limbo.
Yeah.
I just picked up some notable ones, mostly ones that seem like they're coming along. I think Firewatch is still pretty far back. But which of those stick out to you?
Firewatch, because I don't think it should happen.
It
was a fantastic game. It was a fantastic game.
I kind of agree with you.
But you don't do a lot in Firewatch, and that's like kind of the beauty of it. So I don't know how this would work as a movie or a show.
The story is kind of, it is intimate and quiet. Not that can't be done in film. I just think, of course, it is done very well in film.
It's maybe just better done in the game.
I think I think boring stuff is, when interactable, is more fun. And if you're not, but I think the film could be great. It is a pretty cinematic film. My hopes are not high.
Yeah, it's just not something I would bet on.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I also wanted to mention Five Nights at Freddy's film.
I was gonna bring that one up.
Sorry, Caitlin, go ahead.
Yeah, that one. I don't know. Because this one's kind of similar. It's very like, it's good because you play it, and because the what's the word? The anticipation. What word am I looking for? I guess
tension.
Tension comes from because you're sitting there playing it, and like you're not sure like when things are gonna come, and you have to actively doing things. But I also think it could work because there's not really a story, and they could just take this world of like creepy animatronics and then turn it into a story.
I think that would piss people off because the Five Nights at Freddy's lore is dense. There is so much lore. I think it would honestly be, at their fault to stick just to the first game. I think if they wanted to tell a story, dive into the lore and even cross through the games. Like do multiple. Like
I was so into the lore and so many theories, especially as they were coming.
Yeah, I was gonna say Matt Pat's videos.
Yeah.
I watched so many.
Yeah.
But that's just a theory.
Again, theory.
Thanks for watching.
Yeah, but again, I don't know that that's a film I would bet on.
I wouldn't either. Definitely not. I think especially.
I'm curious. I am curious.
Yeah.
Me too.
Yeah.
I could be brought back in. I could be.
I want it to be good.
I'm not gonna see it though.
But I'm not sold yet.
But it's not something we're willing to bet on, like
Mhm.
Uncharted or The Last of Us.
Absolutely
Those are much stronger candidates for having a
Yes.
good adaptation.
And even then, right, like I care so much about Uncharted. If I hear it's terrible, I'm still going to go see it. If I hear Five Nights at Freddy's is bad, I'm not going to see it.
Absolutely not.
I wanted to mention, though, the director of Five Nights at Freddy's is Chris Columbus, who directed Home Alone and Mrs. Doubtfire. There's a lot of weird crossover between horror and comedy, and I think it's a very weird choice. I kind of like it, though.
You know?
Respect, I guess, but it doesn't make me feel any
Sure.
better.
Sure. I also wanted to, what was I going to give a shout out to? Sonic the Hedgehog I didn't see. I will want to, though.
I don't want to.
Oh, you know what I wanted to do? I love Ben Schwartz. I wanted to give a shout out to the Fallout show, pretty early in development. I think that is a good idea. I think Fallout, big fan base, lots of lore and world.
That's true.
They already are set up for a show. I really hope they don't do a story that's already been done, because Fallout's like the story is not the strength of those games. There are so many vaults that do so many weird things that they could dive into. They're like and so much time as well. I think Fallout is a really good call for an adaptation.
You know what I actually would be interested in watching, and again, this is the D&D adventure in me, just like a dungeon crawl of a bunch of different vaults.
Interesting.
With like a D&D party.
You want to see like them going to different vaults. Interesting. Okay, I could be kind of into that, because they do weird stuff. There are the people who are experimented on, the people who, like, there's a lot of weird stuff in the Fallout lore that I really like.
I have the most familiarity with the stupid phone game. As
Fallout
always.
Shelter, sure.
Yeah, Fallout Shelter, great.
So last thing I wanted to sort of get into was a lot of the games that are getting adapted or have been adapted, not all, but a lot, especially in the last decade or two, are games that are pretty cinematic and story focused, generally with a pretty grounded and realistic style, because those are sort of more easily able to convert to film, at least to a film person. So some games that haven't followed this are the Super Mario Bros. Movie from the 80s, the Mortal Kombat. It's got a generally realistic style, but not a realistic visual style, but not in terms of content. So there's a couple of Mortal Kombat movies. Or Detective Pikachu, like we talked about.
Yeah.
Was adapted really well. What is a non-realistic, non-cinematic game that you would make into a film, and what approach would you take?
My first instinct was just to refer back to Firewatch, because God, that sounds like a challenge.
It is. I would say that Firewatch, I would call that movie cinematic. Even though it's first-person perspective, I would call it cinematic.
It has the potential to be cinematic.
I love that game. I love it to death. But I think that's like, for somebody who doesn't really know video games, they see Last of Us and they're like, let's make that a show. Let's make that a movie.
Yeah.
They see Firewatch, and they're like, okay, we can do this. I want to know what's a challenge. Like, they did that movie Pixels, which was fucking awful.
I'm sorry, the what?
That movie Pixels.
Oh yeah.
That was like, it was like classic games versus the world.
Yeah,
neither did I.
No. Oh, was that the one with Adam Sandler?
Yeah.
Yes, and Peter
so.
Dinklage.
Yeah.
Oh, I was like kind of excited because Peter Dinklage and Adam Sandler.
Yeah.
I forgot Peter Dinklage was in it.
I believe I'm thinking of the same film.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
But
sounds right.
And there's like a Donkey Kong movie based on Donkey Kong Country that's like ugly, that I loved as a kid. Yeah.
I have a couple ideas, and I guess I'll toss them out, and then I'll loop to like the most probable one. I'd love to see Stardew Valley.
Interesting.
I would love to see any of the Ace Attorney games.
Ooh, that's a great call.
And I would also love to see any of, like, I don't want to say game, but the World of Civilization.
I'm going to need explanation on that.
Okay, so in, like Firewatch, Civ is so cinematic. And it is literally, what? Civilization. Yes, Civ 6.
Is cinematic?
Bruh, have you been on the loading screen ever? Have you seen
the loading screen? It's like the intro is cinematic, not the game.
They have a whole but
It is a
But the
tile-based
game-
strategy game. How is that cinematic?
Yes, it is. Okay, with the graphics for the Civ 6 and 5, not so much the previous one. You can literally see the workers doing things in the pyramid.
That's
It's
detail.
beautiful.
I
It's
disagree,
beautiful.
but I want to. But it is beautiful. But I want to hear how you would make that a movie.
That's such a good question.
Yeah.
I have no idea. I have no idea, but I'd like to try my hand at it because you do see something of a plot in like the trailers for these games or like the opening. Like there are people there doing things.
Sure.
I'd like to try. It would be fun.
Caitlin, do you have one?
I have 2 ideas, and
Please.
I think they both might be horrible. First one is Animal Crossing.
There is an Animal Crossing anime, or I believe it's a film.
Is there really?
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
What would you? But I want to hear what you would do.
I really don't know.
Come on, give me something to work with.
I just thought that would be really hard to make, but I think there's so many like fans of it. Like, what if?
Yeah.
Okay. What if
There would be a
was,
lot.
like-
There would be a lot of eyes on it for sure.
Yeah.
Oh. Civilization 6, but like with a Dungeons and Dragons twist.
Boo,
So like
boo,
you're
boo,
like
boo.
no, shut the
Stop.
fuck up.
That's
So you're
boring.
like in the game half the time, but it's also like a chess game,
That's
like
bad.
frame.
That's
No,
bad.
shut up.
Animal
Caitlin, I wanna
Crossing,
hear you.
the Dungeons and Dragons twist. No.
Adrianna, Adrianna,
I'm kidding,
bro,
I'm kidding.
you say
Okay.
everything with a Dungeons and Dragons twist.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we have Animal Crossing, but it's just like people, and they're on an island. And it's
Okay.
like Lost.
So
No,
it's-
I don't know.
So it's New Horizons, but with like edgy. It's like they like start eating each other.
Oh no.
No. I
Tom
don't know,
Nook is like a
but-
stingy capitalist.
Oh, he is.
Yeah,
He
but they
though.
double down. Like he has like oil refineries, child slaves. Like
God.
yeah.
I mean, I hate Tom Nook, so I'm down.
I mean, it could be like a Hallmark film where they like move here and they're like,
Whoa.
That's
No,
what I was thinking for
that's
Stardew
it.
Valley.
yeah.
Caitlin,
Yeah.
you just found it. You found it.
Yeah, I think that's it. All right, my second one. I feel like this one has been tried before and people hate it. And I don't think there's ever actually been anything made, but Legend of Zelda.
So there was
I feel like they could make something good.
Yeah.
And I've seen them try before and I've been excited and then it's never made it like any further.
walk me through it. What's your approach? You're the
I-
exec. How do you imagine? What do you say to these people? This like, what's the direction you give them?
I think Ocarina of Time, you're gonna hate me, but I think Ocarina of Time it could be made into, well, I don't know, I might go back on this. But I feel like it could be made into a great story and it's one of the like most popular ones. I don't know if it's false to say it's the most popular, but most people know Ocarina of Time.
Can I give you an idea? Can I pitch something to you?
Sure,
boss?
go for it.
Exec.
I'm the executive.
Okay. I have an idea. What if we did Wind Waker? Or what's the pirate one on DS? Phantom Hourglass.
Yeah.
What if we did a pirate, like, I know that's not like typical Zelda, boss, sir, ma'am, but what if we did like a pirate adventure with a young boy character and like going to save the world?
I don't know that that's Zelda anymore.
So I hear
That's
you.
the thing.
But
I hear you.
I like where you're going with this though, because I think if we fall into the trap of like going with the most popular story, people aren't gonna like it because it's the most popular story. But if we go with something that's a little more like not as known.
So I'd like to bring up, I didn't bring this up earlier, Netflix has been working on a live action Zelda show for a while.
Really?
Yeah.
I think that's what I was talking about that I had heard of.
Okay. It was announced even before Witcher, I think.
So what are they working on? Are there any details?
No, I think it's stuck in development hell.
Yeah. Which, like,
Yeah.
I know a lot of people complain about Link, like, being able to talk.
That's a big one.
Yeah. But
It doesn't have to follow Link to be Zelda.
That's true.
For sure.
That's not what I meant.
Or I could even...
I think
Sorry.
it could work if it's not the same story as before. Like, if we get a new story, I think that it could work.
I've got another idea, ma'am.
Go for it. Pitch it to me.
So, similar to Samurai Jack, one of my favorite animated shows.
Mhm.
You know, I think it's really hard to have a silent protagonist. I think a quiet protagonist is great. Samurai Jack rarely speaks.
The Witcher cough.
Yes, but Witcher, that's one thing I liked about Geralt. It doesn't talk a lot. So I think maybe we could do it, Link talking, but barely. Like he's quiet most of the time. And really he is the connecting fiber to the story of all these different people he meets on his journey.
That's interesting. I like that.
This
might be a terrible idea, but when you said that, it kind of made me think, what if Link was like mute or deaf?
Mm-hmm.
And like we went into like going about like
that would be pretty cool.
Yeah, I don't know what words I'm trying to say. My brain isn't working right now.
That would be really interesting,
just, like,
actually.
dealing with that, yeah.
It would be. There's not a lot of deaf representation on TV.
Exactly, and like using that as representation, like signing in it.
Because there's not a lot of disabled representation in games either.
Yeah. That would be interesting. I'm kind of into that, Caitlin. I'm kind of into that.
That'd be interesting to kind of like show how he fights while being deaf.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people like kind of like how Toph uses her when she's blind.
Yeah.
But then like how do you fight like if you can't hear around you? Because a lot of it is like hearing people running up behind you, stuff like that. So it's like going into like how he figures out how to fight.
And that's part of the magic of doing it in The Legend of Zelda is like literal magic. I would be down for some. Again, I like using this reference, Sherlock-esque slowdowns and seeing how Link fights.
Yeah, I think it would piss a lot of people off making
absolutely
stuff, but I think it's really cool.
But fuck it, we're not actual executives. YOLO.
Not yet.
Damn, not. Make this.
I don't really have one solid one. So one that jumps to mind, one of my favorite games is Brothers Tale of Two Sons.
I've seen a little.
Absolutely fantastic. But the thing is, two issues with that. This is not my final answer. One, it is already pretty cinematic. And two, that game necessitates being played. There is a moment in that game that convinced me that games are art. There was a moment in that game and I was playing it and I was like, I was like, games are an art in themselves. They are not like they're not like interactive movies. Like games are games and this is art. There was a moment, I don't want to spoil it, but if you've played it, I think you know what it is. Absolutely phenomenal game. I think it could be a really cool show, but I don't think that quite fits the parameters I set up. It would be a weird one. Fez. we make a movie? I think a movie out of Fez. I think that a Celeste show or movie would be bad. I think it would be bad.
The Fez one wouldn't?
I think you could go some really cool directions with Fez. I think having it be animated and
like
then
what?
So having it be animated and then utilizing the 3D space, I think you could do some interesting things.
Yeah, but what story do you want to tell Matan?
I don't know. You're saving the world, 3 dimensions. So there. Okay. Take it or leave it. I think I wish, now I'm just forgetting every game I've ever played. I'm trying to think of one that's a stretch. I'm trying to think of one that is not cinematic, not super heavy on the story that can really...
Civilization.
Tetris.
I think they tried to do that.
Did they really?
And I know Tetris was in Pixels.
Sudoku.
Yeah, I remember that.
Sudoku,
let's do it.
Pong. That could be like a tennis match or something. I don't know.
Yeah. Like the musical chess, Pong.
There's a Fortnite movie in development as well.
No, thank you.
Wanted to bring that up.
No,
if you could make any video game into a movie, what would you choose?
That's a harder question, Caitlin.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say I'd probably say Last of Us show.
They're already doing that.
Right, but if I could pick any, that would be my choice. Are we saying now that we know that's happening, what would I pick?
Yeah, like something that hasn't been made yet.
For you to lead.
Yeah, if you were in charge of development.
That's another question. Yeah. That's really hard. I wish I'd thought about this more beforehand.
Dragon Quest. I want to do a Dragon Quest game.
I'm into it. Are you going to get what's in Toriyama to do the art?
Sure.
Okay.
That would be a challenge because it's a different style, but sure. Sure.
Caitlin, what would you
The first one that popped into my head was Until Dawn.
Oh,
Okay. Yeah, that's another cinematic one. I think it could work as a movie. I don't, I think it'd be a solid 75.
Yeah, and I think that would be a cool like anthology to like just follow all the games that they come out with, like a Man and Medan movie.
yeah.
It'd be interesting because I was thinking of like these choice-based games, like how those would translate into movies or TV shows.
That's hard.
Because like I was thinking, Life is Strange. I'm like, would you be able to do that one as like a TV show or movie? And I don't know if that one would be possible.
I kind of like that idea though.
Yeah, I don't know because like it really that one especially really boils down to like your choices you make and how it affects everything.
Well,
you know what? Hold on. I got one. Ori and the Blind Forest. That's the show. Animated,
nice,
similar style. You know what? I want even some more Japanese influences. Not that game doesn't have a story, and again, the gameplay of that game is great. I have only played a little bit. I really want to get it. But I think you could make a really impactful story out of that game, and I think it is beautiful. No, I take it back. Hollow Knight.
Oh my God.
Hollow Knight.
My boyfriend will fight you over that. He will wrestle you to the floor.
He doesn't want an adaptation.
No, he would claim rights. He would claim rights to that adaptation.
That's what it is. Ori would be great. I think Hollow Knight is so densely packed with fantastic lore and world building. Yeah, I love that game.
Okay.
I've loved Metroidvanias. Not as huge on Dark Souls type games in general, but I think Hollow Knight did it really, really well. That's my choice. That's my pick. Final answer. Beep. I submitted it. Hollow Knight.
Yeah, I think I might be digging myself into a hole with Until Dawn. Oh, sorry. Yeah, I think I might be digging myself into a hole with Until Dawn because I feel like it would be very hard to make it into a movie. But I think it was done well.
Yeah, you could do something like that Black Mirror Netflix episode.
Yeah. I actually wanted to bring up, and sort of kind of related to adaptation, the very last thing that Telltale ever did before it collapsed, and now it's back, but before it collapsed, was they fired, I think, 300 people, and they left about 10 people on their team, and their job was to finish porting Minecraft story mode onto Netflix. So you can play Telltale's Minecraft story mode with the interactive thing like Black Mirror Bandersnatch. I'd be interested if I'd wonder if like Walking Dead season 1 is my favorite Telltale property. I like a lot of them, but I wonder if that would like work on Netflix.
It would be interesting, and it would be interesting to see like those choice games that you like, Caitlin, like Until Dawn, translated that way.
You know,
idea.
They'd have to
also, Telltale, hire us.
Telltale, please hire us, please. They're in Malibu. They're not too far from us.
Ooh, yeah.
Please, we'll all take jobs.
Well,
we'll accept low wages. Please.
Yeah, well,
please underpay us.
Low wages and long hours.
Yeah.
Game developers need unions.
Please.
All right. Well, I think that just about does it for this week. We're running a little long this episode, but we had a lot to say. I love talking about adaptations. I love this shit.
And we hope to hear your opinions on some of our sometimes hot takes, because we're all insane.
Yep. Thank you so much for listening or watching. You can find us wherever you get podcasts or with a video component on YouTube. You can also check us out on our socials. Usually we are Rewind and Replay. You can find us. We also have a Patreon if you feel like supporting us. And we'll see you next week.
Bye.